Chapter 7. Noah broke the silence. I'll go after her. And do what? Claude's voice was sharp. Drag her back here by her hair. She can't have got far. She's barely able to stand. Noah was already moving towards the landing and the stairs. I caught his arm. Stop. We have to. No, stop. He pulled free but didn't move. The others watched me, waiting. My mind raced through the options, discarding each one as fast as it formed. Chase her down the street and confirm every suspicion the neighbors had about us. Break into her house and kidnap her. Stand here and wait for the Grimms to knock. None of them worked. None of them kept us safe. She's gone, I said. We can't change that. So we just let her, Noah started. We protect this house, I said. Now, while we still can, while there's still time. Tim nodded slowly. The tunnel. Yes, Eden looked between us. What about the tunnel? She knows about the tunnel. She will tell them everything, including that. I turned to face them all properly. The brick wall, the space behind it. She doesn't know about that. We break through, now. We don't know what's back there, Claude said. Air's moving through it, Tim said. That means space, possibly significant space. And if there isn't room, Noah asked. Then we're no worse off than we are now, I said. But if there is, we can hide everything, Eden finished. The plants, the equipment. And us, Claude added quietly. I nodded. Noah, Claude, Eden, you can't be here when they come. Tim and I are the only ones officially living in this house. We're the ones who stay. While we hide underground like rats, Noah said bitterly. While you stay alive, I said, which is more to the point. No one spoke for a moment as we all thought our own thoughts. Tim broke the silence. We'll need tools, hammers, chisels, crowbar, headlamps, dust masks. Something to shift rubble, somewhere to hide it. How long will it take? Eden asked. Depends what's behind it, Tim said. We don't have much time, I said. Iris could be talking to her beloved authorities right now. She won't get processed straight away, Claude said. Not this late in the day. They'll hold her overnight, maybe longer. Maybe, I said, but we can't bank on it. Noah rubbed his face and blew his breath out as if he was expelling panic. When he looked up again, something had shifted in him. Something had hardened and he was focused. Right, what do you need me to do? I can't think we won't actually get searched this time. So, get every box of nasal spray down from the attic, I said. Stack them by the tunnel entrance. Eden, you're on the plants. Everything you've been growing in the tunnel first. They're the most obvious. Get them ready to move. We can just about get away with the ones in the greenhouse and conservatory if we have to. And me? Claude asked. Help Eden. First off, make doubly sure no one can get into our tunnel from the other end. Then help with clearing rubble, and once beyond that bit, start clearing space the other side. We'll need room to work in there. Tim was already halfway out the door to start breaking through. They scattered. I stood in the suddenly empty room, listening to the sounds of the house coming apart around me, footsteps overhead, the scrape of boxes, low voices conferring. I thought of Iris walking down the street towards the home in which she'd been bullied and battered for all that time. I thought of her at her front door, or at an enforcement station telling her story, thought of what would happen when they started checking it. We had hours, maybe less. I went to the kitchen and filled the kettle. While it boiled, I assembled mugs and the makings for all our favoured refreshments. When Tim came through with the tools, I handed him a mug. Drink, I said. You'll need it. He took it without argument. You should go down, he said. Coordinate. I'll bring the rest. By the time I reached the tunnel entrance, Noah had already started shifting trays of plants from the far ends of the shelves in the tunnel, ready for when we broke through into the space beyond. Claude appeared with more trays. I moved past them to the brick wall. In the lamplight, it looked older than I'd thought. Victorian, maybe. The mortar crumbled at the edges where we'd dug around it. Tim squeezed past with the tools. He ran his hand over the surface, testing. Here, he said, pointing to a spot where the mortar had already started to fail. We start here. He positioned the chisel and raised the hammer. The first blow rang out loud in the confined space. Can it be quieter? I said, not very hopefully. From somewhere about his person, he produced a wad of fabric and a roll of tape. He proceeded to wrap the head of the chisel with them, tight and methodical. He adjusted his grip and struck again, using shorter strokes. This time, the sound was duller, more controlled. A chunk of mortar fell away. Noah appeared at my elbow. The boxes are moved. What else? Start bringing down the spray-making equipment from the attic, I said. The bottles, the mixing bowls, everything. It can look like an arts and crafts room, but not like a medicinal production room. He nodded and disappeared into the gloom. Tim worked methodically, loosening the mortar around one brick, then another. Claude and Eden kept bringing plants, stacking them carefully against the tunnel walls. The space filled with green, the sharp scent of eucalyptus, mixing with the earth. Got one, Tim said. The first brick came free. He set it aside and peered through the gap. Well? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Then, pass me the torch. I handed it over. He shone it through the hole, moving the beam slowly. Big, he said finally. Very big. Relief flooded through me. How big? Can't tell yet, but bigger than this. He pulled back and looked at me. We'll fit. Then keep going, I said. He returned to work. More bricks came free. The opening widened. Cold air pushed through, carrying a scent I couldn't identify. Old stone, standing water, something else underneath. Noah returned with the first load of equipment. There's a lot, he said. This is going to take. Then move faster, I said. The work fell into a rhythm. Tim breaking through the wall. Claude and Eden ferrying plants and boxes. Noah hauling equipment down from the attic. Me directing, checking, making sure nothing was forgotten, packing loose bits in boxes, bagging up rubble. An hour passed, then another. The hole was large enough now for a person to fit through. Tim climbed in first. Careful, I said. His voice came back hollow. There's a floor. Solid. Looks like. Whoa! What? You need to see this. I squeezed through after him. My torch beam swept across the space, and I understood why he'd stopped speaking. We were standing in a room. Not a cellar or a crawl space, but an actual room. Brick vaulted ceiling, dry floor, and leading off into the darkness, more rooms beyond. What is this place? I breathed. Don't know, Tim said. But it's ours now. Behind us, Claude's voice called through the gap. Well? Start bringing everything through, I said. All of it. There was no time to explore. No time to consider if anyone else also thought this place was theirs. No time for anything except to make the lads and all their effects disappear from my house before the authorities came. So, of course, the doorbell started to ring, as if someone was leaning on it. Even this far away I could hear it. I leapt up and said to Tim, Get everyone and everything in here from the tunnel. I'm going to answer the door. I shall cover the shaft in the shed like we usually do. None of you can come up until I say so. I barged through the hole into our original tunnel, shoved my way past the startled faces of the others, and raced for the end of the tunnel. Pulled myself up into the shed, covered all traces of the shaft as quickly as I could, and tried to slow my breathing as I entered the house, walked its length, and approached the front door. Suddenly, I remember that, for the authorities, usually Grimms, I was a demented and lewd old woman. I scrabbled through my hair, planted a leer on my face, stooped my shoulders, and opened the door. 2 women stood there. They were looking everywhere but at me, behind me, to their sides. They were constantly alert. Blood sisters, the ones who'd brought Iris here in the first place. I straightened up. I didn't need to do my act for them. We have to come in, one of them said. Now. I stepped back without thinking, and they were through the door and closing it behind them before I could process what was happening. The taller one, I remembered her from before, the one with the scar through her eyebrow, ran into the front room and peered out through the jungle of plants in the bay window to see the street. What's going on? We've been watching, the other one said. She had short grey hair and a very good poker face. Your house, hers, ever since. You've been watching since you brought her here? Since we saved her, the tall one corrected, not looking away from the window. Come through. Time for coffee? I checked the street myself before I shut the door and led them through to the breakfast room. Iris left, an hour ago, maybe less. We saw, the grey-haired one said. Walked right out of your front door. No one saw her off. No one went with her to make sure she got home safe. Heat rose in my face. We know what you were doing, she cut across me. Trying to decide how to save yourselves from her. Don't feel bad about it. We understand better than you think. The tall one turned from staring out of the breakfast room window. When we saw how she left, alone, determined. We knew you didn't know she'd gone. You wouldn't have let her leave like that. We knew immediately she was someone who can't be saved." "Saved from what?" I asked, though I was starting to get a cold feeling in my stomach. "From herself," the grey-haired one said. "We see it all the time. Women so conditioned to take responsibility for men's brutality that they'd rather die than admit what really happened. They'll burn down everyone who helped them before they'll accept that their husband deserved what he got." I thought of Iris in the spare room, insisting she wanted justice, that things should be done properly. I thought of her face when she'd talked about him. He wasn't always like that. "We checked her house," the tall one said. "Before coming here, she'd already telephoned the authorities. We bugged it last time we were here. She gave them everything: names, dates, descriptions. Told them she'd been held against her will, that she'd escaped, that she needed protection." The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. When, 20 minutes ago, the grey-haired one met my eyes. They were on their way. We could hear the sirens. My mouth dried. I hadn't heard the sirens. I'd been underground. Behind me, in that underground, my people were hiding with everything that could destroy us. Everything Iris had seen. Everything she knew. "So we dealt with it," the tall one said. I stared at her. "Dealt with it how?" Neither of them answered at first. The silence stretched out, filled with all the things they weren't saying. All the things I didn't want to know, but couldn't stop myself from imagining. "You're safe," the grey-haired one said finally. "You and your household. That's all you need to understand." Cold spread through my chest, creeping down into my stomach, numbing my legs. "What did you do?" "What we had to," the tall one said. Her voice was flat, matter-of-fact, as if we were discussing the weather. What she made necessary when she chose the authorities over the people who saved her life. When she chose them over you, over us. I wanted to ask more, wanted to demand details, timelines, methods, but the words wouldn't form, because part of me, the part that would do anything to protect my people, didn't want to know, couldn't afford to know. "The authorities won't find anything that incriminates anyone but Iris," the grey-haired one continued. "There are witnesses to his beatings and her screaming, but no witnesses to anyone else having anything to do with anything. There is the knife that killed him, with her fingerprints on it. She finally snapped. She killed him and ran. She recovered, came home, felt so guilty she gave herself up to the authorities and is prepared to take her punishment." How the hell had they arranged all that? There was nothing I could say. I could only stare. "She couldn't be saved," the shorter one said sadly, shaking her head. "In the meantime," the tall one said, "you're alive. Your boys are alive. Your operation continues. That's what matters." "That's not," I started, but she cut me off. "Yes, it is," she said. "You know it is. That's why you were down in that tunnel of yours, trying to hide everything she could have exposed. You were preparing to do whatever it took to survive. We just did it first." "They knew about the tunnel." "Of course we know about the tunnel. We know about the nasal spray production. We have to know these things to keep our people safe. Also, we do a lot of the distribution of your meds. We're grateful." God knows what my face must have looked like, but at least it didn't seem they knew about the space beyond the lime-washed bricks. At least that was still left to us. But, given what we'd lost, it really seemed foolhardy to go through life trying to help people. The tall one was some sort of magical mind reader. "You learn," she said, "that trying to save everyone will finish you. Wanting to help doesn't mean you're obliged to die for it, so you stay alive first. Helping comes second." I had never felt so out of control of a conversation in my own home in my life. So when she changed the subject, I simply went along with it. How much did these people know, for Pete's sake? "Your other house," the grey-haired one said. "We wondered if we could use it as a safe house. It's not connected in any obvious way with you. We know it belongs to the solar panel chap, but we also know he officially lives here now. And we know that your boys can't live in that house. It's empty. We're always in need of more accommodation." She looked at me so expectantly, I thought I'd have handed over the deeds and the keys if I'd had them. Luckily, I didn't have them. It's Tim's house, not mine to dispose of. And of course they knew that. "Just leave us a note in one of your lockboxes hidden in the hedge at the bottom of your back garden when you decide." or when he decides. I simply stared at her. Where you leave the nasal sprays, she added unnecessarily. They knew about the nasal sprays. I tried to smile, but it died before it was born. You can always get in touch with us via your lockboxes too, should you need us. For anything, we're grateful for your help. And they got up, walked out the back of my house, and disappeared. I hadn't seen any of that coming. They must have eyes and ears everywhere. I wondered how everyone was getting on in the other space, but I was too stunned to move. I stayed at the table for a while, trying to grapple with it all before going back out to the shed, down the shaft, along the tunnel, and into our new space. This one would have to remain under wraps. We couldn't afford to have so many people knowing our secrets. I walked through the kitchen and out the back door. The cold bit at my hands. The air felt damp. I looked around as if to ground myself after that surreal conversation, finding out that all our secrets had never been secret. The hedge at the bottom needed cutting back. The soil around the greenhouse was black, where water pooled in the ruts. I crossed the lawn towards the shed. My feet left prints in the wet grass. The shed door stuck. It always did when the wood swelled. I shoved it with my shoulder, and it gave. Inside smelled of creosote and earth. I bolted the door behind me and stood there a moment, letting my eyes adjust. The shelves were half empty now, tools missing. The tarpaulin I'd used to cover the entrance lay bunched in the corner. I moved it aside, shifted the old paint tins stacked over the hatch, and pulled the board up. Cold air rose from the opening, different from the air in the shed, older, damper, heavier. I climbed down the ladder, placing my weight carefully on each rung. My knees complained. At the bottom I reached for the torch I kept hanging from a nail. I didn't need it for the tunnel. That was already lit thanks to Tim's handiwork, but I assumed I'd need it for the other space. The tunnel stretched ahead, narrow and low. It had been shored up with salvaged timber, railway sleepers, door frames, bits of scaffold board. I was surprised to see that it was empty of plants and their shelving. Either the lads had worked incredibly hard, or I'd been a lot longer than I thought. I walked slightly bent over, one hand on the wall for balance. Reaching the middle bit that had been widened, the opening Tim had made gaped dark. Bricks lay stacked to one side. Dust coated everything. I squeezed through. The space opened out around me. I stood and straightened my back. The ceiling arched overhead, old brick, blackened in places where soot had settled decades ago. Vaulted, proper construction, Victorian most likely. A commercial cellar back when this area had been warehouses and workshops instead of houses. Air moved past my face. Not a draft exactly, but circulation. Coming from somewhere deeper. I turned slowly. Eden had stacked plant trays along one wall, neat rows, methodical. All the seedlings we couldn't risk leaving above ground. Beyond them, pots of bigger plants and boxes of nasal spray, hundreds of bottles. Claude and Noah must have worked fast. I didn't need the torch, but its weight in my hand was comforting, so I hung on to it. Tim had rigged solar lights along the ceiling, battery-powered, salvaged from God knows where. He'd strung them on wire, evenly spaced. They filled the place with warm yellow light. I peered into a room off the main one and saw something I hadn't expected. A stone bench with 2 circular holes cut through it. A privy, old style, the kind that dropped straight down into a cesspit or sewer below. Long disused, judging by the dust, but evidence of habitation. People had worked here, lived here maybe. Voices echoed from the next room. I moved towards them, ducking under a low archway. The next chamber was larger. Tim knelt beside an upturned crate, sketching something on paper. Claude stood behind him, holding a torch steady. Miracle worker though he was, Tim hadn't got all the lights fixed up everywhere yet. Noah and Eden were shifting equipment, mixing bowls, bottles, measuring jugs, everything we'd had in the attic. They looked up when I entered. All clear? Noah asked. For now. Eden straightened, brushing dust from his knees. Who was it? What did they want? The Blood Sisters. To tell us Iris is dealt with. No one spoke for a moment. Claude broke the silence. Dealt with how? I met his eyes. In a way that keeps us safe. He nodded slowly. Thankfully, he didn't press for more information. The others watched me, waiting for more. I didn't give it to them. Tim tapped his pencil against the paper. This space connects to something else, he said. There's airflow from that direction. He pointed to a gap in the far wall, partially bricked up. Could be another room. Could be a passage. I walked over and held my hand near the gap. Air moved against my palm. Cool. Steady. The current moved with purpose, not the random drift of a sealed space. Whatever was beyond, it connected to something active. Maybe the old sewer system, maybe another building's foundations, or maybe something else entirely. Leave it for now, I said. We'll explore once we're certain the house is safe. Tim nodded and returned to his sketching. I moved between the stacked boxes. Eden's plants lined the wall in careful rows. The nasal spray bottles gleamed under Tim's rigged lights. Our entire operation compressed into this Victorian underbelly. How long do you think we'll need to stay down here? Noah asked. Hard to say, but it could be a long time, so make it comfortable. I tried for a smile, but I'm not sure I succeeded. And if they search the house, Tim and I will handle it. We're the official residents. You three don't exist on paper. What about the Blood Sisters? Eden asked. Can we trust what they said? I thought about the grey-haired woman's flat delivery. You're safe. That's all you need to understand. They're known for keeping their word, I said. But even as I said it, something cold settled in my chest. The Blood Sisters knew about the tunnel, about the nasal spray operation, about Tim's house. They'd watched us for weeks without us knowing. How much else had they observed? What other secrets had they catalogued while we thought we were being careful? Noah must have seen it on my face. What is it? I opened my mouth to answer when a sound echoed through the space, faint but distinct. I froze, my scalp not just prickling but full-on trying to jump off my head. The others went still. What was that? Eden whispered. The sound came again, not from the tunnel behind us, but from deeper in. From the direction of that gap in the wall Tim had pointed out. Movement. Deliberate. Human. Tim was on his feet, pencil forgotten. Claude shifted, positioning himself between the sound and Eden. Noah moved to my side. Someone's down here, Noah breathed. Not possible, Tim said, but his voice carried none of the conviction I would have liked to hear. We broke through. We were the first. Surely. The sound repeated. Footsteps. Slow. Careful. Coming closer. I raised my torch, aiming it at the gap. The beam caught nothing but brick and darkness beyond. But something was there. Something that had been here first. Back to our tunnel, I said quietly. Now. But before anyone could move, two shadows detached themselves from the gap in the wall and stepped into the light.